Democrat Party is actually working against religion, against freedom, and shutting down churches. I see the Holy Spirit, the evidence of the Holy Spirit working in the president when he takes the kind of actions he does.
We want justice for George Floyd and his family. Everybody agrees on that. But this utter destruction and violence is not the way to do that.
And President Trump brought this back again to the country.
With Joe Biden, he hasn't even condemned Antifa. Just think about that for 1 minute. He hasn't condemned the rioters.
If you voted for Trump, you ain't black.
You have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
I have to look at myself and black, because some people say, Herschel, you're not black. I'm like, no, I am black.
HBCUs and the things that the president has done to invest and to support the black community, that's how we grow out of this.
Defunding the police is insane. The police are what protect us all from anarchy.
We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. We will make America great again.
Welcome to Team Trump Online.
I understand the pain that people are feeling. The death of George Floyd on the streets of Minneapolis was a grave tragedy. It should never have happened. It has filled Americans all over the country with horror, anger, and grief. We support the right of peaceful protesters, and we hear their pleas. The voices of law-abiding citizens must be heard, and heard very loudly. We will stand with the family of George Floyd, with the peaceful protesters, and with every law-abiding citizen who wants decency, civility, safety, and security. But what we are now seeing on the streets of our cities has nothing to do with justice or with peace. The memory of George Floyd is being dishonored by rioters, looters, and anarchists. The violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups who are terrorizing the innocent, destroying jobs.
Did this for no reason.
The mobs are devastating the life's work of good people and destroying their dreams.
We worked so hard to get here. So hard.
It harms those who have the least. We cannot and must not allow a small group of criminals and vandals to wreck our cities and lay waste to our communities. We must defend the rights of every citizen to live without violence, prejudice, or fear. Healing, not hatred, justice, not chaos, are the mission at hand. I stand before you as a friend and ally to every American seeking justice and peace. No one is more upset than fellow law enforcement officers by the small handful who fail to abide by their oath to serve and protect. We support the overwhelming majority of police officers who are incredible in every way and devoted public servants. We must all work together as a society to expand opportunity and to create a future of greater dignity and promise for all of our people. Every citizen in every community has the right to be safe in their workplace, safe in their homes, and safe in our city streets. We are working toward a more just society, but that means building up, not tearing down, joining hands, not hurling fists, standing in solidarity, not surrendering to hostility. This is the sacred right of all Americans that I am totally determined to defend and will defend.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Team Trump Online. I'm Mercedes Schlapp, Senior Advisor for Strategic Communications to President Trump's re-election campaign. Be sure to like and share this broadcast with your friends. Joining me for tonight's show is a top member of the House Republicans leadership team, Republican Whip Steve Scalise from the great state of Louisiana. Congressman, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Mercedes. It's great to be with you and all of Team Trump out there.
Yeah, we were just talking about our homeschooling experiences. So the kids just finished school. That was quite a task as we've gone through this coronavirus pandemic.
Yeah, families have pulled together and have had to do some real challenging things. I mean, obviously with the economy shut down, you've got a lot of turmoil out there, but in the midst of all this, parents are having to homeschool their kids as well. So we had some real interesting times with that. I relearned all of those math formulas, like, area of a circle equals pi r squared. It still works. And, we had a good time with the kids, though, and the kids were good about it, too.
Yeah, but I got to say, I think these kids are ready to go back to school. I don't know about you.
They are. We need to open schools again in the fall.
No kidding. I think the parents definitely want the schools back open. That's for sure. But let's get started. I know it's been such busy weeks that we're seeing. Obviously, this past week, we've seen a split screen unfolding across America. On the one hand, we're seeing thousands of peaceful protesters on the streets. On the other hand, we're seeing violent looters, rioters, and Antifa hijack the noble cause of justice for George Floyd. We've even seen Joe Biden, who has not condemned these violent rioters, some of them who have attacked even our own police officers. President Trump will not allow the cries of peaceful protesters to be drowned out by an angry mob. I was with him last week. He said, Congressman, that he is the president of law and order. I'm sure he shared that with you as well.
Yes, he has. And, and he's made it clear to the country, we all mourn the loss of George Floyd and what happened in Minneapolis. Justice needs to be served. And nobody in law enforcement has the right to abuse their position of power, and there needs to be accountability. But at the same time, you also can't have violent outbursts where people are literally just going out and looting and rioting and burning down cities. It can't happen. And I'm glad President Trump has been very clear that he's going to stand up for law and order. And when you look at, for example, the death of that retired police captain, David Dorn, that should not have happened. That murder was cold-blooded, and I think all of us were outraged when we saw that as well. But it's a shame that you don't see more people on the left, from Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, standing up against the violence and the rioting and the looting. That's not what we should be about. We should be about protesting and demanding justice.
That is absolutely right. I think we can all say we stand with the peaceful protesters as they, exercise their First Amendment rights, but going down this path of violent rioting and destruction of our cities. I mean, we also saw the attempt to burn down the historic St. John's Church by the White House. Let's watch this clip.
Unfortunately, I can add just a moment ago, it does appear that St. John's Church is on fire. We saw graffiti. Once the door was broken, we saw something similar happen earlier. And as you can see, there's definitely a fire here.
And Kevin, so people know, that is an historic church that's just across Lafayette Park from the White House. Numerous presidents, dozens of presidents have sat in those pews. They have gone there in times of national trouble. They've gone there for regular Sunday services. For generations and generations, presidents and their families have walked across Lafayette Park and gone and sat in the pews of St. John's.
And President Trump went to go see St. John and what had happened there, stand there for a moment. It's very, and of course the media mocked him. The Democrats went after him. Nancy Pelosi then decided to read a passage from the Bible. But let me get your reaction to the clip and the destruction that we're seeing in our communities.
Yeah, Mercedes, my heart dropped when I heard the initial reports that St. John's Church was burning. And initially they didn't know just how bad it was. And you just think about the history of that church and what it represents to our country, to think that was burning down. And, you in this country, they're threatening some people to be arrested if you go to church, and yet they're allowing a church to be burned down right there in Washington, D.C. It was heartbreaking. Thank God, and I'm sure there were miracles that happened to save the church. But it just went and I think opened people's eyes up to the fact that, wait a minute, we we're all in unison that George Floyd should not have been murdered that day, and the Minneapolis police have real issues they've got to deal with there. But at the same time, to burn a church down and to burn cities down is not the answer.
Yeah, and I think we want to find constructive solutions, obviously. And what we're seeing instead from the left is that their solution, Congressman, is defunding our police. This includes some of the members from the House of Representatives also calling for defunding our police. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Congressman, you've seen multiple examples of cities saying they're going to defund our police. Why is this such a dangerous move?
Mercedes, this is incredibly dangerous because you're seeing the socialist left really take over the Democrat Party and coming up with things like this. And look, I wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for the heroic actions of police officers. The Capitol Police not only saved my life, but so many others that day 3 years ago on the baseball field. And they don't talk about those stories. I mean, if a cop does the wrong thing, and in the case of George Floyd, clearly justice needs to be served there, and everybody is in agreement on that. But the idea that if you're in a community, depending on where you live, if you call 911, there's going to be nobody to answer that call. I think that would be a chilling thought to most people in this country.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, you're talking about unsafe streets, unsafe community, and I would say chaos. And I think Joe Biden is promoting this chaos. And he has even barely mentioned that you've had police, for example, in New York City, who have been violently attacked by these rioters, ending up in the hospital. Yet you see these mayors like Bill de Blasio saying, we're going to move away from funding the police, putting that money, shifting that over to social services. You also see the veto-proof majority in Minnesota, Minneapolis, their city council also saying we need to dismantle the police. It's dangerous moves by these Democrat, far left representatives that we're seeing across the board. But Congressman, what does this say about Joe Biden and the Democrats who are embracing the defund the police movement, which will lead to unsafe communities?
Mercedes, this is one of those telling times. And, when you're in the midst of a campaign, obviously you're going to have issues go back and forth. And the president takes positions, but the Democrat nominee, Joe Biden, has to be clear about where he is on this. He's trying to play both sides of it, Mercedes, and you can't. Look, Donald Trump has been very clear. He supports the ability of law enforcement to protect communities and hold people accountable if they cross that line. Joe Biden is mysteriously silent. I guess he's stuck in his basement right now because they're afraid to let him out and answer this tough question. Frankly, it's not a tough question. It's a very straightforward question. Are you for or against defunding police in this country? And Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi are literally dodging this question right now. And when you want to run for president of the United States, you can't hide from the tough issues. So Joe Biden's going to have to be very vocal, and it has to happen soon. He can't let this go on for days and days.
Well, you mentioned about that fateful day in June 2017 when you nearly lost your life at the Republican baseball practice. I have to tell you, we were all just so sad to hear that you had been shot. We were all praying for your quick recovery. And it was really the U.S. Capitol Police, including your special agent, Crystal Griner, and Corey Bailey, that saved your life. I mean, it just shows how important American law enforcement is in keeping our country safe. Share with our viewers, that it was a dreadful day, just what you went through, how those special agents, those police officers saved your life, and why it's so critical to give our police officers the backing they need to do their jobs.
And Mercedes, this was one of those days you never hope or think would happen. Crazed gunman shows up on a ball field of, we're just getting ready to play for a charity baseball game. And he starts shooting at Republicans because he wanted to kill all of us. And if it wasn't for that heroic action, as you mentioned, David Bailey and Crystal Griner were there that day. If they weren't there, all of us would have been killed because he went there with the element of surprise and a lot of ammunition and capabilities, but they were well trained. They did their job exactly as they were trained to do. And ultimately, both of them were shot during the shootout. and kept going at it to protect all of us and took the shooter down. And, law enforcement does that every day, unheralded. They don't do it for notoriety. They do it because it's a calling to protect and serve people in our communities. And again, if anybody abuses their position of power, they need to be held accountable. Nobody's disputing that. But you've also got to recognize the heroic action that's taken every day that goes too often unnoticed. And clearly on that day, I saw it firsthand. I wouldn't be here. And a lot of other members of Congress wouldn't be here on this planet today if not for that heroic action of those Capitol Police officers, David and Crystal.
And to your point, I think the key is you do have those officers. We know they have those infractions. They should not be on the front line in any way and should not be out in the communities. Those people, the bad cops, no room for them. There's no tolerance for that. But we can't just because you have this one bad person literally try to destroy our law enforcement. I mean, that is just a horrible direction to go in because there is the police officers who are there to save people's lives, to keep communities safe, to ensure that we're decreasing violent crimes in our communities. They play a critical role in our communities. How does it work in Louisiana with the police departments?
Well, if you look, for example, at the New Orleans Police Department, and we've got Mardi Gras every year, so you've got about 1 million people that congregate and come into New Orleans to celebrate Mardi Gras. And it's always so very peaceful because, imagine being a law enforcement officer with that many people and, some people are imbibing and, enjoying the moment, and yet they're able to keep the calm and the peace and keep people safe. And this is families that come from all around the world. They want to come and have a good time and they want to feel safe. And that's able to happen. And again, if you've got a law enforcement officer that crosses the line, they ought to be held accountable. But when you watch how they're able to keep that many people safe in a peaceful environment, it shows you how it can be done the right way.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to go down this route of demoralizing law enforcement during this time. Let's take a quick break, but we'll be right back with more Team Trump Online.
A bull in a china shop, changing Washington. It takes a Donald Trump to demand truth from China. Shut down foreign travel. Get ventilators and tests now. Raise unemployment benefits. Cash relief to families. Washington's come to that. President Trump's not always polite. Mr. Nice Guy won't cut it. He does it his way, not the Washington way. But Donald Trump gets it done.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
In 2016, we built an unbeatable operation that changed history. Now, we unveil our next breakthrough. The exclusive Trump 2020 app. This isn't just an app. This is your source for real news, not fake news. Straight from the campaign and the president himself. This is your direct line to give input on key campaign issues. Your portal to register voters. Host MAGA meetups. Your scheduler. Your application on becoming a Trump team leader.
Join millions and get a front row seat to our virtual events. Watch Team Trump every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Earn points. Get rewarded. Get the presidential photo. Oh, and did we mention it? This is your personal shopper too? So just to repeat, this isn't just an app. This is your tool to keep America great. Join the army for Trump and download the app today.
Welcome back to Team Trump Online. I'm Mercedes Schlapp, and I'm joined by Congressman Steve Scalise, one of our great American patriots. Thank you, Steve, for being with us.
Yeah, great to be with you, Mercedes.
So obviously there was a really big story last week, but the media didn't cover too much of it. The great American comeback story. It is well underway after the economy was artificially interrupted by the global pandemic. To the surprise of many, including the media, the economy added back 2.5 million jobs in May, the largest one-month job gain in U.S. history. I want to play this clip about the historic jobs report.
It is a stunner.
This is a stunner. It is optimistic.
The jobs number for May, 2.5 million jobs added.
Had to double check those numbers because that was absolutely not what we were expecting.
It appears to be a stunner, much better than expected.
I could say it all pretty much in 3 words. Do you have any idea what they are? Jobs, jobs, jobs!
The May jobs report is out, and it is far better than analysts had predicted.
I am so stunned. I mean, I've never seen anything like this.
This does show that the U.S. economy is perhaps a lot more resilient than we anticipated.
It's such great news for the American people.
And the fact is that we're back.
Today is probably, if you think of it, the greatest comeback in American history. But it's not going to stop here. It's going to keep going.
It's gonna keep going. Jobs, jobs, jobs. It's a stunner. What's the word that you want to describe about the latest jobs report, Congressman?
Look, President Trump brought this economy back after it was on its heels for 8 years. He did it once. He's doing it again. People want to get back to work. People want to get back to the things that they enjoy doing. Look, we know COVID is out there. And look, I see the medical research being done at a tremendous pace. By the way, President Trump is the one who moved agencies like the FDA to expedite the tests that we're seeing come online, new testing capabilities, as well as the search for a cure and a vaccine. This is all because President Trump has put the whole focus of the government on doing this, but he also knows that we've got to get our economy back going again, and we can get it back safely. The states that have moved aggressively are not seeing an uptick in their hospitals. In fact, they're seeing people getting around again and going to get their hair cut and going to their restaurants again that they enjoyed going to. People are getting around, seeing each other at a social distance, but jobs are coming back. It's what this president did once. He's doing it again, and we're going to continue to see a great economic recovery faster than other countries in the world, because every country around the world has dealt with this in different ways. But America, I think, can lead the way on the comeback, led by President Trump.
Well, Congressman, the media was completely shocked by these job numbers. We also saw Joe Biden. I think he pretty much had to change his speech on Friday. I think they were thinking the numbers were going to be pretty bad. So tell me why and how did President Trump and the Republicans' bold leadership begin to bring our economy roaring back?
Yeah, you know, when Democrats were talking about mailing ballots to illegally registered people, the president was talking about holding on to small businesses and keeping families going through this. And finally, we passed a relief package that was focused on families and businesses. The Paycheck Protection Program, maybe one of the most successful programs that Congress put together during a crisis that's been effective at saving millions of small businesses around the country. In fact, last week, President Trump signed into law another revision to make that program work even better for small businesses. And that's why they're able to stay afloat and then keep and start bringing people back to work. That's why you're seeing these job numbers increase, because businesses were able to stay together because of President Trump's leadership at a time when a lot of people were on their heels and wondering if they were going to be able to make it back. So President Trump's focus from day one was on making sure to protect the health and safety of families, holding small businesses together. And you saw the Democrats, all the Pelosi and AOC and the far left and Biden were trying to do is bail out the failed states that were failing before COVID and give ballots and health care to illegals. I think it's a big stark contrast.
And adding energy credits and all the Green New Deal stuff that we know doesn't
solar
work.
Panels on airplanes, when the airline industry is about to go under, they're talking about carbon emissions on airplanes. I mean, what planet are they coming from? And, you know, who are they trying to fool with this kind of radical left agenda? So frankly, I think the president's leadership has put us in this position where we're starting this great comeback. There's even more to come. As the president says, the best is yet to come, Mercedes.
Well, the planet the Democrats are coming from is planet clueless. That would be my take on it. So Joe Biden's 40 plus years in office, they've shown us that his policies would be a disaster for the American economy. Now he's embracing extreme socialist policies like we were talking about, the Green New Deal. Congressman, how would a Joe Biden presidency devastate the economy, especially at a time that we are recovering from the coronavirus pandemic?
Oh my gosh, let's all keep that vision in our mind as we recognize just what's at stake this November and why we need to stay focused on doing everything we can to reelect President Trump and take the House back and keep the Senate, because Joe Biden, you know, who knows what he really stands for these days. He's taken just about every position on every issue, But what he's doing lately is embrace this socialist left positions, the far left radical ideas of, he was one of those ones that raised their hand when they said, should people that are here illegally get free health care? And there was Joe Biden raising his hand. I mean, you know what he's going to stand for. It's going to be about crushing our small businesses that are just starting to come back with mountains of taxes, mountains of regulations. This is a real contrast election, let alone who he would put on the Supreme Court and the federal benches when President Trump has put great constitutionalists, people that actually believe in the Constitution as it was written, versus people that want to just make up their own view based on what their vision is today of the radical left. So I think there's a clear choice people have. If they let Joe Biden out of his bunker for more than a couple of minutes at a time, you'd see even more about how dangerous his radical positions have become.
Yeah, there's no question. These historic economic results make it clear we need to continue reopening up our country safely and get Americans back to work. That's what President Trump is working on every day, which is this transition to greatness. Republican-run states that have been opened for a month are reaping the benefits. But what we're seeing with the Democrat governors across the country is that they're still slow walking, reopening these states, including putting restrictions on churches, as we know. And we know President Trump, for example, said for the churches that these would be essential services, essential businesses. Congressman, why are Democrat governors so unwilling to let people go back to work? Are they playing politics?
Well, I think it's an important question that's been raised, and especially when you look at the data. This is all about the health and safety of families. Go look at the states that aggressively opened over a month ago. And by the way, the mainstream media was out there saying, oh, there's going to be death in the streets and they're going to have a spike. They didn't have the spike. In fact, their healthcare numbers and their hospital numbers are the same as the states who have stayed closed, which tells you you can safely reopen your economy. The roadmap's there. You don't have to wonder about it. And by the way, and you brought this up, the attacks on religious freedom from some of those very same governors, that's been going on since before President Trump took office. Donald Trump said he would restore religious freedom. Again, one of the many promises that was made that are promises kept by Donald Trump is to fight and stand up for religious freedom and the sanctity of life. When you've got some of these same governors, including in New York, saying that if a baby is born alive outside the womb, Mercedes, they say you can kill the baby and call that abortion. It's murder. And President Trump has made it clear it's murder. He wants a bill on his desk that would protect those unborn babies that are finally born alive. We have a bill that Pelosi won't even bring to the floor. So President Trump has been very clear in standing up for life, standing up for religious freedom, and it's been at stake for a long time now.
Well, and if you can remember, although you were probably quite young back then, Joe Biden flip-flopped on the Hyde Amendment, as we know. There was, where he was on anything dealing with abortion. He's become more extreme through the years and as a career politician. So it just showed that Joe Biden is not where the American people are on this issue of abortion, especially late-term abortion, which we know is so horrific.
Yeah, and you don't even need to ask him anymore who he would put on the Supreme Court. Of course, we all know the kind of constitutionalist conservative judges that President Trump has put on the Supreme Court. And by the way, exactly the ones he put a list out. Remember this, no president's really done this before, where the Scalise seat was open. And as a candidate, Donald Trump said, this is a list of people I would pick from. And then, of course, you got Kavanaugh and Gorsuch on the bench now. And who would Joe Biden, by the way, put on the bench if there was a vacancy? Nobody asks him that. I think we have an idea of who it would be, though, and it would be somebody from the farthest radical left, somebody that's just going to make up the rules as they go along, not read the Constitution and say this is how it's supposed to be.
Yep. For months, Democrats and the media shamed men and women who lost their jobs and wanted the economy to reopen so they could feed their families. We've seen this in a variety of states. Now they're completely silent about protesters and rioters not social distancing. So the latest example of this absurdity is in Contra Costa County, California, where they are limiting outdoor social gatherings for up to 12 people right now. However, they are permitting protests up to 100 people. Congressman, how hypocritical are the Democrats and the media on this?
Well, here they're treading on the very constitutional rights that we have in the First Amendment. And so You can't say this part of the First Amendment applies, but that part doesn't. Religious freedom is front and center in one of our ingrained rights that we have as Americans, and they can't take that away. If it's going to be challenged, I think they would lose that challenge. But yet it shows you just where their leanings are when the first thing they want to do is go after your right to exercise your religious freedom and to go worship in your place of worship. But you can have that right if you're going to burn the city down. It's just not. It's not who we are. We've got to restore what this is all about. And I think President Trump's been very clear that he stands up for that right of religious freedom.
Yeah, and I know, Congressman, our faith is so important. I mean, in helping to get us through this coronavirus pandemic, you see Americans turning to their faith during this very difficult time. And it's been tough to have the churches closed, and I think you see these individuals who also want to get back to work as well, that they're saying, okay, we got to move on, get the country moving again. So I think those are all exactly where President Trump's mindset is, which is, let's get our churches open, let's get the economy going again, because we are going to get our country back. We've seen it. America is very resilient. The spirit of America is strong, and we will also work on restoring our communities. But before we let you go, we have one final break, and we'll be right back with more Team Trump Online.
This is Brad Parscale, President Trump's campaign manager. Without a doubt, 2020 will be the most important election of the history of our great nation. America has come too far in the last 4 years to give up now and let the Democrats undo all of our incredible progress. Don't listen to the fake news media. They said we had no chance in 2016, and they're saying it again now. The future of our nation depends on you. The only way to ensure victory and keep America great is to get out and vote. Use the link below to make sure that you're registered to vote.
Mass incarceration has put hundreds of thousands behind bars for minor offenses. Joe Biden wrote those laws.
Every major crime bill that's come out of this Congress has had the name Joe Biden on that bill. We do everything but hang people for jaywalking in this bill.
Joe Biden's policies destroyed millions of black lives. Joe Biden may not remember, but we do.
Welcome back to Team Trump Online. I'm joined with our great Congressman, Steve Scalise. How are we doing, Congressman?
Hey, we're doing great, and the president's doing great too. So it's always good to talk about what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, we have to also stay focused on the fact that we've got this election coming in November. And I know that we here at Team Trump are focused every day in making our calls, getting our grassroots motivated. There's huge enthusiasm on the Republican side. I mean, what are you sensing out there when you're talking to Republicans in terms of what they think could happen in this election?
Mercedes, people are focused on what's at stake in November, and they see it front and center. It's no longer a debate between moderates and conservatives, or even liberals and conservatives. It's truly about the freedom that we as conservatives believe in versus socialism, and that's where
Yes.
the Democrat Party in Washington has moved. And there are a lot of Democrats across the country that don't embrace that socialist view. And so the leadership that President Trump has provided, not only through this crisis, but through his whole presidency, where he took over when the economy was in the tank for 8 years. He got the economy back going. He reinstilled confidence in America. He reinstilled the support of our allies around the world, standing up to the bullies like China, like North Korea, like Iran, and like Russia. When the previous administration refused to do it. Joe Biden, by the way, was part of that administration where they let Russia try to interfere with our elections. President Trump's been standing up to them. But to get through this crisis, Mercedes, and I think this is going to have a lot at stake in terms of how we go into November, as this economy starts to recover, and it's already starting to happen. And it's going to only get better as businesses come back, as people are able to get more and more of the economy back open and get back to doing the things that they believe in. This idea that you should just cower and hide in a basement and not confront this challenge, that's not who America is. Just 2 days ago, we recognized the anniversary of D-Day. And you think about what the greatest generation did and the challenge of that day. They didn't hide and whimper from that. They went towards the danger and they confronted the enemy. We're going to confront this hidden enemy as well, and we're going to be successful because as Americans, we take on challenges. We don't run and hide from them. And that's why we're going to come back. And President Trump has that philosophy and that belief in America, the greatness of America. And so, some of these people just want to sit back and maybe, let's not do anything until there's a cure and a vaccine. Or do you just say, we're going to go out there and we're smart as Americans? We know how to get back doing the things that we do. And we're not going to shut this economy down. We're going to get back to what is great about America. We've got to keep America great. We need to keep Donald Trump in office with Vice President Pence doing the great work that they've been doing for so long.
Yeah, and as the president has mentioned, obviously we want to reopen this economy, do it in a safe and responsible way. And, but at the same time, what we're also seeing, you were talking about this, is the stark contrast between President Trump and Joe Biden's leadership. We know President Trump has risen to this moment right now. He is offering a unifying message to bring our country together. And just think about this. Just months ago, we just saw the having to deal with this coronavirus pandemic. I mean, you've seen the president up close and personal. How focused has the president been in helping us get through this pandemic and now obviously dealing with what we're seeing in the country?
Mercedes, I've worked with the president a lot through this, and what I see is a man focused on protecting the health and safety of the American people. That was his primary goal as president, and he's focused on it right now. You see him bringing in the top health experts. He's bringing in people from all around that can give the best guidance on how to do this safely. But he also knows that if we're going to have the kind of American dream that's out there, the opportunity for people to succeed, you've got to open our economy back up again,
yes.
too. You can't just keep this shut down. And people want to get back to their jobs. They want to have a job to get back to. And we're seeing, by the way, dire health consequences by people staying at home. And there's a lot of data out there that shows that people are missing their mammograms and their colonoscopies, and kids aren't getting immunized, and it's having devastating consequences on family. We need to get back going again. We need to get back to open up the economy. That's why President Trump's leadership has been so vital, because he's been focused on how to safely do it, getting the best experts out there, but also having that vision to say, we're going to confront this hidden enemy. We're going to succeed. We're going to be successful at getting our country back on track again.
Yeah, and Joe Biden has no shame. He has sought to divide the country for political gain. He has consistently attempted to sow discord during this incredibly painful time for our nation. In a town hall last week, Biden openly showed how much he detests millions of Americans. Let's watch this clip.
There are probably anywhere from 10 to 15% of the people out there that are just not very good people.
Congressman, how does Joe Biden expect to be president of the United States when he basically disrespects 15% of Americans? Would you say this is his deplorables moment?
Wow, Mercedes, it's eye-opening. Each time you see it, you just wonder, who exactly is he talking about? And what America is he thinking about? I mean, President Trump believes in the greatness of people. He signed the Second Chance Act. I mean, he's the one who's led the way to help give people more opportunity and to create so many things that this country wants and to fulfill that promise of America. And then you contrast it with Joe Biden, who's just trying to look for areas of division, even within his own party. So I think, again, people see through this. They don't want that kind of division in these times of crisis. They want a leader who's going to look forward and work towards helping people get back to what is great about this country. And that's the leadership that President Trump has continued to provide, and it's the kind of leadership we need.
We also just saw Biden campaign staffers who are actually bailing out violent criminals. They set up this fund with these bailouts, and it would basically be so destructive. I mean, they're wanting to bail out the violent criminals who would destroy, these homes and businesses. I mean, what does this say about Joe Biden and his campaign?
Yeah, I wonder if the people that are contributing to those funds are proud of the fact that maybe some of that money might have gone to bail out the murderer of retired police captain David Dorn, or when you saw the video of that couple coming out trying to stop their building from being destroyed and burned down and looted, and they were beaten with clubs and ladders. I mean, that's not who we are as Americans. That's not peaceful protest. That's going to advance the cause of justice. And so I think when people see that, it just reminds them we need to maintain law and order, especially in difficult times.
Yeah, and we also want to work on healing our nation. I mean, the president said it in his remarks, it's healing, not hatred, justice, not chaos. And I think that is the contrast with what you're seeing with President Trump and his leadership versus Joe Biden basically endorsing chaos. And just to close, what final message would you like to leave with the American people?
Well, the message I would leave is that we're a resilient people. We've been through tough times. These are definitely part of those tough times. And we'll look back and say, you know what? We confronted something that nobody had ever seen before. And yet we stayed together through this. And then we had some difficult times that we worked through even more challenges with George Floyd and calling for justice there. And yet, as America, we're only going to get through this if we stay united, and we are. And President Trump is providing the leadership that is going to get us through this and get us back to that place, that shining city on the hill that we know we can be. And we always strive to be a greater nation than we are and to leave a better nation to the next generation. And we're headed on that track. And we need to see President Trump's leadership continue to get us through this.
Well, thank you, Congressman Steve Scalise, for joining us tonight. We appreciate all the great work that you do for our country, your service to our nation, and for standing up for freedom. You are a great American.
Well, thank you, Mercedes. God bless you, and God bless all of Team Trump that's working so hard out there to keep America great.
Thank you so much to all of our amazing supporters at home for tuning in. You know that if you want to get involved with the campaign, just text us. Text Trump at 88022, or you can go to armyfortrump.com. We also have that great Trump app that you can download. We will see you all next time as we continue to fight to re-elect President Donald J. Trump and keep America great. God bless you all. Thank you so much.